What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Week 1 has come and passed. The first full weekend of college football is in the books. College football is officially back, and today I'm going to be going over my Week 1 takeaways. Everything from FSU's dominant performance against LSU to Colorado's statement win over the TCU Horned Frogs and so much more. But before we dive into Week 1 takeaways, thank you guys so much for the support on the channel as of late. Let's continue to show support as the college football season rolls along by hitting the subscribe button and ringing the bell so you know when videos get uploaded. But there are more ways than that to help me support my channel. You're doing one right now by watching the video. You guys can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, anything else you guys are willing and able to do to help me support my channel would mean a lot to me. So with all of that out of the way, let's talk about Week 1 and what we saw out of Week 1 takeaways. We did have a couple upsets in there, some big and some that kind of flew under the radar. We had some very good games, some phenomenal finishes. It's just, if you really want to dive in more, go take a look at any Week 1 scoreboard. Go watch some game recaps. This was a very, very fun Week 1 to watch. But I got 5 really big takeaways, and there was really a lot of more things you could have taken away from this week that would wind up in your top 5. But after every single game, even after the Monday game, Clemson and Duke, here are my 5 biggest takeaways from Week 1. The first off is kind of a general takeaway about a certain conference. This is probably the last year that we are going to be seeing the Pac-12 in existence, and I think it's going to go out with a big bang. Taking a look at how the Pac-12 has fared so far this college football season, guys, they're 13-0. They are 13-0. Every single team won their Week 1 game, and then, of course, USC played in Week 0, so that's where the extra win comes from. And we're going to be talking about a certain team out of the Pac-12 here a little bit later. But Utah looked very, very good against the Florida Gators. USC, again, still may have some defensive things to work out, but that offense is rolling. Speaking of rolling offenses, Oregon hung 81 on Portland State. Bo Nix and company looked fantastic. Michael Penix had a phenomenal performance in Washington's 56-19 win over a very good, very talented group of 5 team in Boise State. Again, we're going to be talking about a certain team later, but even some of the other guys, California looked really, really good. They hung 58 on North Texas. UCLA was kind of a sloppy win, but they were able to get past Coastal Carolina, and Oregon State looked phenomenal. DJU played his butt off in the game against San Jose State. Guys, the Pac-12 might be the best, deepest conference that we are going to see here in 2023. They looked really, really good. It was a phenomenal week for the Pac-12. And you know what? There are a lot of big games coming up for this conference. You got Utah, Baylor, Oregon, Texas Tech. There are a lot of other big games. Auburn, Cal, that's a game going on next week. Guys, there are a lot of big games going on for the Pac-12. So we'll see if they can continue that success next week or if maybe they're going to start to fall back down. But the thing about that concerns me with the Pac-12, what happens if they kind of eat each other up? Because I firmly believe there are truly anywhere from 6 to 8 teams in this conference that have a legitimate shot to make the college football playoff. But what happens if they all just kind of cannibalize, if the Pac-12 cannibalizes itself like it has in years past? So the Pac-12 going to be a very interesting conference to watch, but they, as a conference, looked fantastic in Week 1. So that's my number 5 takeaway. My number 4 takeaway comes out of the Battle of the Carolinas. North Carolina has improved that defense substantially, and you know what? I believe that the Tar Heels are legitimate ACC contenders. Drake May was darn near flawless, 24 of 32 for 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. British Brooks ran for over 100 yards, and even though you have your top 2 receivers from last year gone, Devontae Walker, still don't know his situation with the NCAA transfer waiver, Kobe Paysor, John Copenhaver, Kamari Morales, Gavin Blackwell. There were guys that stepped up and were ready to play, and the ball got distributed everywhere through the passing game. But I think we all knew that this UNC offense was going to be fine. Overall, defensively for this North Carolina team, oh boy, things improved a lot. Now, you could say the same thing about South Carolina on the other end, and by same thing, I mean this is a Carolina team that has a lot to work with specifically on the offensive line, and my friend Josh Pate, well, not necessarily my friend, not that I know him personally, I just like watching his content. He said that there were a couple of padlock stats, a couple stats that if I were to tell you before you even watch this game, you would not have had to watch this game. One of those being, South Carolina averaged negative 0.1 yards per carry. I didn't even know that was allowed. Yeah, you can do that. They had negative 2 overall rushing yards. And get this, And get this, North Carolina defense had, I'm going to go ahead and check this number before I say it, 9 sacks. 9 sacks, 16 tackles for loss. And the guy that impressed me the most was Kamon Rucker, I believe linebacker for this team. 8 tackles, 5.5 of which were tackles for loss, 2 of them sacks. This is a North Carolina team that I think is going to be very exciting to watch later down the line. They are true ACC contenders in my mind right now. And for South Carolina, boy, you got Georgia coming up here in a couple weeks. You got Mississippi State that has senior everywhere, all over that defense. They're gonna have to be some adjustments made fast for the South Carolina team. But that was my number 4 biggest takeaway here. As now we go ahead and break into number 3. We're gonna stick with the ACC. And well, guys, I really think that Clemson is going to be in some monumental trouble here. Cade Klubnik was taken over at quarterback for them this year, and 209 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 1 fumble as well for him. So not a fantastic debut, although I do believe he did show some upside. He was overthrowing receivers a lot, though. He was throwing it way over their heads, so that's going to be something Klubnik is going to have to clean up. Will Shipley, I thought, ran well. I thought Phil Maffa ran well there as well. I thought the wide receiving core played solid, but Cade Klubnik has got to be able to really hone in, and he has really got to be able to hone in his passing ability and not turn the football over, which is what this Clemson team did. I'm going to go ahead and check my facts here so I don't get this wrong, but I believe they had 3 turnovers, and yeah, they did 2 fumbles, 1 interception, and at some very crucial times as well. Down when they're near the goal line, Clemson was given the football away at some very, very crucial moments, and albeit there was the one call about targeting when Klubnik was going down, I definitely thought that still should have been Clemson ball, but I don't really think it impacted the outcome of the game as much. Sure, maybe the score might have been like 21-14 or something like that, but it's still all pointed to Clemson losing the game. But maybe even a bigger takeaway is that Duke is a real true ACC sleeper. This team returned a ton of talent offensively, and you know what? It showed out. Riley Leonard, fantastic dual threat quarterback, 17 of 33 for 175 yards. Didn't really show that much through the air, but you know what? He showed a lot with his legs. A 44-yard run in which he evaded a tackler, broke a tackle, busted out the stiff arm. He had a rushing touchdown, and then his running back duo in Jordan Waters and Jaquez Moore each had a touchdown there as well. This is a Duke team that you need to fear if you are a team in the ACC. It's a Duke team that is very, very experienced, very, very good. The defense played really well. It took advantage of Clemson's mistakes. So, again, this is kind of like another 2-part here, but Clemson is in trouble if it does not get things turned around fast. I have faith that Garrett Riley and company will be able to do that, but Duke is a team you got to watch out for in the ACC. So there's my takeaway for that game. All right, let's talk about a game that you saw last night that honestly might have surprised a fair bit of people. It didn't surprise me a ton, but every single play that I was watching Florida State Sunday night, I was just thinking to myself, wow. And honestly, I don't really have anything negative to say about the Florida State Seminoles. Jordan Travis played amazing. 4 touchdown passes, 342 yards. Trey Benson, Lawrence Toafili, sure, maybe didn't have the yards. This team as a whole, 34 carries for 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jaheim Bell ended up getting in as a rusher there as well. So, yeah, overall, maybe the yards per carry aren't there for Florida State. Let me go and check that number. Or actually, it's a pretty solid number. 4 yards per carry, maybe not the yardage for one single player, but it was a run by committee, and a lot of the new transfers looked spectacular for Florida State. Keon Coleman, who you see pictured there to the left of your screen, balled out in this game. He was spectacular for Florida State. Let me get his stat line. 9 catches, 122 yards, and a hat trick of touchdowns for Keon Coleman. Johnny Wilson was spectacular. Jaheim Bell got in the end zone again as a rusher, but also as a receiver as well. And it's a Florida State team that just looked darn near unstoppable in the game against the LSU Tigers. They are a team to fear in the national conversation, and absolutely a team that can go win a national championship. I didn't even talk about their defense. Where do I even start with that? They created havoc for Jaden Daniels in the backfield. They created havoc for this LSU run game. Brian Thomas ended up having a really good game for the LSU Tigers, but you know what? Florida State's defense just absolutely stymied LSU's offense in the second half. this was just a phenomenal performance. Sorry, can't talk today, from the Florida State Seminoles. It's a team that I'm really looking forward to watch, and especially after what we just saw and what I think about the Clemson Tigers now, while I definitely do think that it can get fixed, oh boy, that Florida State-Clemson game is the balance is really starting to shift on that scale. I think last time I looked, Clemson was a 3-point favorite. Yeah, that's definitely going to change after last night when, of course, Duke ended up beating the Clemson Tigers. But for Florida State, love this team. Again, this is why kind of going to toot my own horn here, but my playoff picks are looking pretty good right now. I did have Florida State making the playoff. I believed in the experience. I believe in Mike Norvell, and you know what? They gave me all the more reason to do so there in week 1 over the LSU Tigers. So let's move on to my number one biggest takeaway. I think you guys all know where that's going. DEION and the Buffaloes, they're here whether you like it or not. Do you believe now? I'm going to be honest here, DEION. I did not fully believe in year 1. I knew that DEION was the right coach for Colorado, and hey, maybe they weren't going to win a lot of games this year, but they were going to win a lot of games down the road. Well, you know what? Colorado may win a lot of games in year 1 because that performance against TCU was impeccable. Shedeur Sanders set a school record in this game. 510 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Of course, that is Deion Sanders' son. You have Savion Wilkerson, Dylan Edwards, Anthony Hankerson, a by-committee running back room that, sure, maybe didn't put up quite the yardage, but speaking of Dylan Edwards, what a stud he is. 3 receiving touchdowns for him on only 5 catches for 135 yards, albeit one of them was a 75-yard touchdown. Travis Hunter absolutely balled out in this game, not only as a wide receiver, but as a corner as well. He played over 120 snaps in this game. I think it was like 126 snaps, something like that. He looked spectacular. 119 yards receiving on 11 catches, tied for the team lead. You had Xavier Weaver and Jimmy Horn both go over 100 yards receiving as well. But that's not all that Travis Hunter did. No. Travis Hunter was just a phenomenal player across the board. Only 3 tackles, but did have an interception. That's the one you see on the right-hand side, a diving play to get in front of the wide receiver. And I honestly don't blame Chandler Morris, my apologies, for throwing the ball. Just a really good play made by Travis Hunter. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, legitimately 2 Heisman contenders this year. I am not kidding. Their Heisman odds have spiked. Vegas has proved it. Colorado is for real, y'all. And for TCU, well, you really got to work on that defense, though. I have a feeling that TCU is going to be relatively okay. But Colorado, man, they got a big game against Nebraska next week and then a tough stretch in conference play. But you can't take this team lightly. Colorado just emphasizes the depth of the Pac-12 this season. They are going to be really, really good. DEION is here. Do you believe? Because you better be, because the Buffaloes are coming. I expect them to be in the top 25 ranking, foreshadowing for my next video. But this is a Buffalo team that you need to watch out for. You need to fear if you see Colorado on your schedule, because they're coming and they're going to play a hard-nosed brand of football, and they are competitors. They are winners there in Boulder. That's what DEION has turned them into. But guys, that's going to do it for my week 1 takeaways. Any other takeaways you can leave in the comments section down below. And as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.